Baby, hold on to me. Yeah, I just got done listening to an old tune by Eddie Money. Baby, hold on to me. Good old rock tune. Kind of gets my juices going a little bit there, you know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, got a good look out there. We're back in actually we're 3 degrees right now, so we're having our cold spell again. Although, you know, you gotta look when you go out on the interstate, or you go into these small towns and woodsy areas. It's nothing more beautiful than a nice, frigid, Arctic cold summer day, winter day in Minnesota. Really, the way the sun shines on the snow and the trees and the scenery. And as you kind of know, I always have to give you all an update on the weather as I begin my videos. So, staying true to form. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do this video on. Well, I am. I have now taken to Twitter, and I'm trying to start a group on there, a men's rights group, being you know, get another red pill group growing, or red pill following, manosphere following on there, and I've had some interesting discussions on there with some groups of people and whatnot. Following the Andrew Tate ordeal as well, you know, keeping touch with this. Now, as you know, I'm pretty consistent. I try to be, as God be my judge, you know, in going in on all sorts of groups of people that show hypocrisy and double standards and inconsistent, illogical thinking and speaking contradictions, Orwellian double thinking, you know, red herring arguments, ad hominem attacks, etc., etc. I can go on and on about this, but I won't bore you. But yeah, I've gotten into something about there's this individual I follow, Union of Black Africa, or Black America, Union of Black America, something. I think that's his name, or his pseudonym, like I have a pseudonym on there, the Redneck Juggernaut. Well, anyway, I'm gonna. In this guy's, of course, he's into the Pan-Africanism, the red, black and green, you know, the back to Africa people, which confuses me. For people that hate America so much, why don't they go to Africa? That's one thing I've always been kind of mystified by. They always talk about how America's been so racist and treated them so badly, but I don't know, they're not really in any big hurry to go back to Africa, interestingly enough. But, you know, I also see the Russians and the Ukrainians. We're getting quite a few of them here, and they seem to somehow, especially the women, I'm going to focus on the women here. Women get into, you know, they come here and they're working and doing their thing, and they're not complaining about sexism or being held back, or the patriarchy and how the patriarchy's oppressed them. They're not jumping on that bandwagon either. You know, they're pretty white-looking women. You know. Anyway, kind of a side note there, a little bit. Anyways, as I was saying about the these Pan-African people that are online on Twitter now, I had a discussion with him about, you know, he's going on and about, now he's into the reparations, of course, reparations for slavery, which, okay, I get it, and I can empathize with the the concerns of black men, and even the outrage over what happened per se in the Jim Crow era, and the turn of the century, not this one, but the 20th century, around the time that TV came into play, and not TV, but motion pictures, and the silent movies and stuff of that nature, and I I can understand the outrage about that, and about what happened to them during that era, and how a lot of them were lynched, and the KKK was at its height, was founded and at its height during that time era. If you watch The Birth of a Nation, you see how they're glamorized in that film. It's a silent film, and its depictions of black men are very they're just very negative, very bad. They have actors playing in blackface, and drooling at the mouth. They're almost depicted as subhuman and looking to prey on innocent white maidens and all this bullshit, So I get it. I get the concern and even outrage over this, and I think that there was some horrible injustices done during that time, as well as during during the 50s. I think it was the 40s and the 50s. There was a number of them that were brutalized by the police. That this was a bad thing, and of course, we had to deal with segregation and the KKK, white supremacy. I get it, but now we're seeing kind of the reverse of that with now the millennia, and now especially during the presidency of one Barack Hussein Obama, that brought all these laws, and he started saying things like white people have racism in their DNA, and started doing the same race baiting, and there was all these attacks on white people, especially during some of these accounts of the police, and with Al Sharpton and the knockout games, black mobs, doing a lot of damage, in the inner city areas and Democratic run areas. I live in Minneapolis, or outside of Minneapolis, and I've witnessed some of this firsthand, or I have seen some of it. Yes, I have actually. And now we're seeing this latest incident in the paper of this guy being beat to death. 5 black men beating a guy to death in Memphis, rather. Black on black, totally black on black. So you see where this has all gone. So this whole reparations thing is just absurd. It really is. It has gotten to absurdity. It has gotten to the absurdity level. And to me, and this is what I was telling this guy on Twitter, I told him about the Irish slaves, who were actually the original slaves in America. The original people being sold as property. And he wants to get into this foolishness again about chattel slavery. I know what he's doing. I know he was comparing it to indentured servitude or whatever, as though the indentured servants were treated any better, and as though they never had a chance to fight for their freedom. But to nip this nonsense in the bud, absurdity and nonsense of reparations, how foolish it is, how nonsensical it is, and how people just want to live in this delusional, bubble of victimization and blame their problems on another group of people, no matter how absurd it sounds, this is where I am. And he wants to debunk that the Irish slave thing was a myth here. But my whole thing is this. There were white people being sold in markets, in slave markets in North Africa, right at the very time that people, black and white soldiers, were dying to end the cause of slavery here in America. That is, you can't debunk that. If you got that one, you can't, I mean, you can lie all you want. You can rewrite history all you want. That fact remains right there. And your whole argument for reparations tumbles like a stack of cards to me. You have nothing to stand on after that. And I mean, when you look into the Arab slave trade in Africa, and how it was far more disastrous, or far more, it was far worse and more far-reaching than the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade here in the West. I mean, there's no comparison. There's no comparison. They were treated far worse. They never had a chance to earn their freedom. Many of them. Maybe not all, but many. They were sexually mistreated. They were castrated. Their women were sold as property. They had no say in the matter. And you want to go into this insane bullshit about how black people need reparations here for a cause that people died for. And if you also look into, and I'm going to conclude with this, you know, the Jim Crow era and the turn of the century, where I say blacks have a legitimate complaint about that, and maybe even being owed somewhat. You see that that ran concurrently with first wave feminism. And a lot of the black men that were lynched during that era, and I did another video on a specific case, a lot of the black men that were lynched during that era were it was a result of some woman saying they were harassed or stalked or raped by them. It was because of that, and because of the birth of a nation, and the heroic way in which the KKK was depicted, and women's suffrage, you know, women's right to vote. And I'm starting to see too that it was always a rather sneaky thing, but feminism always, even from its very onset back in the early 1900s, always was a hateful ideology that was at tearing down men and destroying the nuclear family structure. It always was. Again, just do your research on this. And that's all I have. Thanks for listening. Till next time.